As a Jewish educator, I used to wrestle with the question, what's the purpose of the Jewish people? And now as a solar entrepreneur who's often called to represent the state of Israel, the UN and elsewhere, I now ask the question, particularly in these days, what's the purpose of a Jewish state? Rav Kook, the first chief rabbi, taught, I just found this the other day, maybe you know it. Avraham heard the vast realm of the divine calling to existence. Be illuminated. Be illuminated. Isn't that beautiful? When we look back in history, 3,000 years ago, Melech Shlomo builds the temple in Jerusalem as a physical manifestation of our values and our worldview. And he gets a visitor from Ethiopia, the Queen of Sheba. And are you allowed to say hook up? King Shlomo hooks up with the Queen of Ethiopia. And Wednesday of this week, interestingly, 2 weeks after Yom Ha'atzmaut in Israel, I'll be paying a reciprocal visit on a state visit with President Rivlin to Addis Ababa. I don't know of any weddings that we're doing, but we are signing some joint ventures, which I'll tell you about in a couple of minutes. Now, 300 years after Shlomo, the prophet walked the land of Israel, the prophet being, of course, Isaiah. And he set a really high bar for the Jewish people to be a light unto the nations. If you've read Rabbi Steinzelt's book with Ronnie, page 35. He also set a really high bar for just and moral societies to take care of the most vulnerable, right? The widow and the orphan, the yatom and the almanah. Now, I don't know how it plays here in Australia, but in America, if you say light unto the nations, there's a feeling of unease. Chosenness doesn't, like in egalitarian societies, how do you do that? So as a Jewish educator, I came up with, for me, a mission statement for the Jewish people. It's very convoluted, but I'm going to share it with you, and then we'll see where we go with it. The mission of the Jewish people is to be an ongoing, distinctive catalyst for the advancement and evolution of morality in civilization. Ongoing, because I'm not a messianist, although my hotel is next to 770 somehow. I don't know who did that on the Lubavitch thing. Distinctive, and this is where the education right now, what's distinct about Judaism and how do you pass along that distinction? How can you be distinct without being parochial? And that's your challenge. Catalyst, we've always been a small people, and we're a small country, right? But we've had a disproportionate impact on the course of human history. So how do we maintain that catalytic role in terms of advancement and evolution of morality and civilization? Now, I think you guys teach your kids incredibly well. The number of kids going to day school, they know their history, they know their halakha. Teach them a little bit more about the prophets. I think some of the spark and the magic and the calling of the prophets would energize them and you, and frankly, this is what we're supposed to be about. So I want to share 3 brief readings about 3 modern prophets. You know all of them, but let's see if you can identify them, because these modern prophets impact my work and stand behind today what the state of Israel is doing. Reading number 1, see if you can figure out who it is. There is still one other question arising out of the disaster of nations, which remains unresolved to this day, and whose profound tragedy only a Jew can comprehend. This is the African question. Just call to mind all those terrible episodes of the slave trade, of human beings who merely because they were black were stolen like cattle, taken prisoner, captured and sold. Their children grew up in strange lands, the objects of contempt and hostility because their complexities were different. I am not ashamed to say, though I may expose myself to ridicule for saying so, that once I have witnessed the redemption of the Jews, my people, I wish also to assist in the redemption of the Africans. Who said it? Theodor Herzl. Isn't that unbelievable? Prophetic, as if rebuilding the Jewish spirit so that we can bring back our homeland isn't visionary enough for someone who passed away at 44. That's extraordinary. That is, and it explains also, look, someone mentioned Mark Liebler to me before, why the former head of the Zionist Federation is also involved with indigenous communities. There's something there, folks. All right, reading number 2. Independence had come to us as it was coming to Africa, not served up on a silver platter, but after years of struggle. Like them, we had shaken off foreign rule. Like them, we had to learn for ourselves how to reclaim the land, how to increase the yields of our crops, how to irrigate, how to raise poultry, how to live together, and how to defend ourselves. We couldn't offer Africa money or arms, but on the other hand, we were free of the taint of colonial exploiters because all that we wanted from Africa was friendship. Who? Not Ben-Gurion, good guess. Golda Meir. How's that for a modern day prophet? Really, really extraordinary. And Golda Meir, this is the 60th anniversary of, as foreign minister, Israel's only 10 years old. We probably had about 1.5 million people. She goes on this 5-nation African tour starting in Liberia, and she steps onto the shores of Liberia and is welcomed as the Queen of Liberia because she was coming in the name of the Jewish people. This is the people who study the Bible in Liberia. So this notion of what we represent in the psyche of Africa, and she launched from there Israel's Foreign and Technical Assistance Program to African nations. One more quote, the shortest one. The largest and most impressive source of energy in our world and the source of life for every plant and animal, yet a source so little used by mankind is the sun. Solar energy will continue to flow towards us almost indefinitely. Who? No, Eitzmann's good. Guess? No, not me. David Ben-Gurion. Herzl. David Ben-Gurion and Golda Meir. Zionist prophets in a way that you may not have been familiar with them. Ben-Gurion was so ahead of his time that in 1952 he brought in Tzvi Tabor, and they invented the solar water heaters. We saw it in the video, and Israel's 80% of our hot water comes from solar energy today.